Hey guys, Sugatan here. So you're about to watch a video where Matis explains the difference between amateur ad buying versus advanced ad buying inside Facebook for the year 2022. And one thing I really want to emphasize is that ad buyers are really the people who are like a business controller inside a normal organization and somebody who manages your risks. And that's how you kind of have to like view ad buyers, because especially when, let's just say, between 30 to 50% of your marketing spend is inside Facebook or TikTok, for example, and you have an ad buyer that is managing that ad spend, they really are the ones who are managing a lot of risk and analyzing risk reward. Inside Sugatan, we have a high emphasis on what I call the risk reward analysis. So for every dollar that the ad buyer decides to spend, they're the ones that are analyzing what is the likelihood that we're going to get a return on that dollar that we are paying inside Facebook or TikTok. And you have to look at it from that lens, that is the lens that Matis is really viewing the entire like ad buying sequence, ad buying strategy, ad buying decisions that he's making. And so he's always coming from the perspective of decreasing the risk for the highest return. And that's where he's coming from. So I wanted to give you guys that preface and context. And now here's Mathis.
Hey guys, Matas is here, and today in this video I'm going to go over one of our accounts that we're doing case study for, and I'll focus more on the ad buying aspect, ad buying side in this video. What we'll do is we'll just simply go through your account's history prior to Sugatan. We'll take a look at how account looked like, how ad buying setups look like, and how everything changed, and how overall results changed, and in Facebook channel in particular, right? Uh, so just to give you a little bit of history, we started working on this account somewhere in mid-February, right? So let's just go back to November last year. Let's see the results, how much they managed to spend, 147K. Okay, December, they spent 70K, a little over 70K. January, 50K. Now, as you can see, each month as I'm filtering by campaigns that we're spending, there are no campaigns with Sugatan tickers, right? Once we go into February, we'll start seeing some of the Sugatan campaigns popping up here, right? So again, January spent 50K. February, we took over. We started, testing some setups, trying to figure out what works, right? Spend this pretty similar, 57K, right? Nothing really major yet. March was a small step back for Facebook. I remember this was the month when TikTok was scaling and pushing the revenue, so revenues were still going up, but TikTok itself had a small step back, right? Now, April is when the tables were turned, and we went to 125K spend already, right? Now, as a reminder, November last year was 147. April this year was 125. So catching up with November's results already, right? May is when we start speaking now, right? It starts looking more serious. 235. So this June. What do we have in June? 169 so far. We still have a few days left, so we'll finish like 180, 190, something like that. But what is important to specify is that even June, I mean, yes, we're having a small, again, step back from May to June, right? 235. This month maybe we'll close around like 190, right? So that's, yes, a small step back, but that's completely normal because we're going into summer, into slow period for this account. June is when the buying intent starts dipping. And a small step back was anticipated, but what I want to specify here is that June's results alone are already way better than November, right? So it's going to be around 190 full month, going back to November once again. Just to remind you, it was 147, right? So um, yeah, so we took a quick peek into spend levels again. Like, I'm not focusing really on ROAS because we have like multiple attributions here, and we look at high ROAS, so it wouldn't make sense to make any assumptions out of whatever ROAS Facebook is showing us, right? And I will not get into high ROAS because the video is gonna be too long. Um, our whole philosophy is that we lock our ROAS KPIs on total ROAS level and then on channel levels as a less clear high ROAS KPIs, and the methodology is simple. We need to maintain the ROAS and scale as much as we can, right? So the fact that spend is increasing simply means that the ROAS KPI was maintained, right? And we push the revenues up. Now, so that's a small peek into results. As you can see, some success was achieved here, right? From January 50K to May 235K, right? Now, what I want to do with you is just spend a few minutes looking into how account looked prior to us, right? And how account looks now, mainly from ad buying perspective. Now, again, I am not saying that ad buying alone made all of the scale happen. Definitely no. It's a 50-50, 50% of ad buying and 50% of creatives. And like other strategies where we combine specific ad buying strategy with specific creative strategy with specific funnel strategy, right? But as I said, this video is mainly focusing on ad buying alone, right? So before we get into comparison of ad buying setups, I just really want to get clear on some on how I define those setups and overall, like from my experience, uh, what I see as a pro level ad buying versus amateur level ad buying right now. Um, if you're thinking why you should be listening to me, I've been an ad buyer myself. I've managed to spend over 2 million a month in Facebook spend all by myself. And I've also been vetting hundreds of businesses and ad accounts in the past year, right? So the trend that I'm seeing in like 99% of accounts whenever they come to us and I'm doing the vetting is that, and this account actually also falls into the same category, is that the account structures and campaign structures and ad buying setups themselves, they look really basic. And what I mean by basic is that most of the ad buyers, um, well, majority of the ad buyers, they're kind of lazy ad buyers, and um, their whole thing is gonna be like, yes, I can scale if you give me a viral ad, but if I don't have a viral ad, I need to downscale because the creative and ad is the most important thing. Blah 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 blah. And I'm not saying that's not true. Yes, it is in a way, right? Because sure, when you get a viral ad, the ad buying becomes easier, the scaling is faster and higher and also easier. But the whole thing that always triggers me is what are we going to do in between the viral ads, right? So the way I see this is that the consistency and consistent scaling and success of business depends on ability to have this perfect marriage between ad buying and creatives, right? And in different time frames, different team needs to push higher or do more to make sure that account is still consistently scaling, right? So what I mean by that is that, okay, we get a viral ad. So for a while, ad buying might become easier and more chilled, right? Because you're scaling, you can scale fast. Viral ad is exploding, right? But sooner or later, the site is gonna get saturated, especially if you're pushing like crazy scaling, doubling, tripling your spend every single day for like few weeks. sooner or later this ad is going to get saturated, and it's not like you get viral ad produced every single week or every single month, right? um, so ad buying itself and ad buying setups and this advanced level of ad buying is extremely important in those periods, when you kind of this viral ad that you've been using over the past months is saturated now and maybe it needs to rest for a while, right? But the new viral ad hasn't come yet, right? And in between, you want to make sure that you're not dipping, right? Because if your performance will be solely dependable on viral ads, uh, then you're just putting your business in, your business is at high risk because you're too dependent on one thing or one lever that you're pulling when you're growing your business, right? The same rule applies to channels, right? Why we're trying to achieve this diversity, it's not only because we want to find new audiences and have new acquisitions, right? But it's also about reducing the risks that um, business has, right? And diversifying investment across the board. So very similar philosophy here, right? And not to get too much distracted, I just want to quickly go through what I have written here. So basically, here we have all of the parameters that ad buyers select and campaign and asset levels when they're building their setups. I'm not going to go too much into ads here. As I said, mainly focusing on ad buying only. So campaign level, very simple, ABO, CBO, right? Daily or lifetime budgets. On asset level, you have some more interesting things, right? So you have attribution windows, optimization for ad delivery, placements, all of the bidding options, and then the usual most commonly used parameters as gender, age, audience, and location. Now, very often and common trend with majority of ad buyers and majority of these accounts that I'm betting is that when we'll go through the account, you'll see that almost all of the assets are built on the default options, right? And majority of ad buyers, what they'll do is they'll focus here, right? They'll focus here and they think that that's the most important part of building a campaign or assets, right? And whenever you would ask them like why you're not testing attribution window, why you're not testing optimization for ad delivery, why you're not testing placements or biddings, right? Or why you're not testing multiple combinations of these parameters like on multiple levels, right? Like what campaign type works best with what attribution and what optimization for ad delivery, like 2 level, 3 level, tests. Their most common answer is going to be like, oh, but everyone uses this default option, right? Or I saw in this Facebook group or in this forum that everyone is saying that default works best. So why should I test something else if everyone is saying that this or that works best? So to me, that's kind of lazy ad buying, right? Because um, it's just missing the point, right? Now, from my own experience, and I was a media buyer in post IS world too. I was spending 2 million in Facebook spend alone monthly, right? After spending those 2 million a month, I know that ad buying is way bigger than just this, right? To me, all of this, like maybe not, maybe let's exclude location from this list, right? Because that's account specific things, but really gender, age, and audience, this is like secondary or even third place priority thing when you're trying to build your setups, right? Because nowadays the best targeting is your ad, right? And it's a whole another big conversation of how you utilize, like how you build different combinations of ads to have this high quality targeting that you want to achieve, right? But even before that, now from mainly my own experience, I'll just highlight the most important parameter levels, right? So I'll just go with top three, right? So it's campaign level, attribution window, and optimization for ad delivery, right? Now let's just write down possible combinations that we have only from these three levels, right? So with ABO, you can have 7-day click, ABO, 7-day click conversions, right? ABO, you can have again 7-day click value, right? ABO, same is going to be 1-day click, right? Let's just copy quickly, bum, bum, bum. And then all of the same combinations with CBOs, right? So what I did here is I just selected three most important parameters that no one is really testing, maybe apart from campaign level, but like too little ad buyers are testing attribution windows and like click attribution windows and not default attribution windows. Too many ad buyers are testing, conversions versus value. And what's even more important, like most important from all of this, is that very little ad buyers see this as a like free level combination testing, right? Because it's not about testing like something alone and making an some sort of conclusion that 7-day click or 1-day click works best, or maybe 7-day click 1-day view works best. If we only test this one level of attribution, right? What we should be doing is seeing this as a like honestly as like 5-6 level of parameters that you're selecting when you're running those when you're building those setups, and then figuring out like what attribution works best with what placements or what campaign type, what optimization for ad delivery works best again with what campaign type or with what attribution, right? I'll give you some um, very basic common examples, right, of what of how you could identify um, different working setups that just work across the board, right? So the first example would be CBO, 1-day click value, open assets. By open assets, I mean no targeting inside like default ad set, but specifically with CBO free assets and 1-day click, right? Another example would be ABO 7-day click conversions, targeted assets, right? Now, in many accounts, both of these setups work. They're completely different. And instead of making a conclusion that this or that attribution works or this or that optimization works, what really matters is what we really need to focus on is what setups work, right? It's not about a single solo parameters that you select, right? It's definitely not. It's never going to be default. Like you just have to understand is that if you're going only off of default parameters, you're just limiting yourself to very limited combinations of setups, right? Because what most ad buyers will do, okay, some of them will play around with ABO, CBO. Majority of them will stay to daily budgets. They would never, like probably 90% of ad buyers have never even tested lifetime budgets. And that's a whole another like story of how many great and winning setups you can build with lifetime budgets, right? Again, majority of ad buyers in attribution window, they'll just go with default 7-day click 1-day view, right? By the way, click only attribution window does impact your targeting and does impact your traffic quality, right? So, and that's speaking from a data of multiple accounts, right? So I just, again, like in this particular case, I see absolutely no logic in going off of default parameter right here, because you're kind of losing the chance to optimize your assets for a better quality audience, right? Here they'll also go with default. They'll go with conversions. Of course, there are like another 3 or 5 options under this parameter. I've just written down most important ones. So it's always an important test: conversions versus value. Now, a lot of people might say that, oh, I've tested value and it never works. Um, but success of whether or not value will work for you also depends a lot on how you prioritize your events and how many value buckets you assign to your purchase event, right? So So if you set up your CAPI in the right way and you prioritize purchase for value buckets, then your chances of making value work increases. And again, it's not really about making value work; it's finding the right setup. Um, it's finding the right setup of like how this combination of multiple parameters, including value, will work. Because at the end of the day, it's super simple. You know everything that you do, you just want to make sure that you're minimizing the risk for business, right? And you're protecting the investment as much as possible. So those ad buyers who stick to like default options and they're not testing that deep into everything, they just have a yes, even if they have something working, they don't have a big variety of these possible setups that are working, right? Because even going back to this example, for example, okay, let's say that this is gonna work and this is gonna work, right? Now we've just tested a bunch of combinations and we have two working setups, whereas everybody else will only see a one working default uh, setup, which is going to be, either ABO or CPO. It's going to be semantic with one view. It's going to be conversions, and it's going to be targeted assets, right? So in this case alone, what we really achieved here is we minimize the risks, we reduce the risk that when the shit happens or whatever happens with Facebook, right? We have more levers to pull. We have more working setups that we can rotate. Whereas this ad bar that goes with default, he's gonna get fucked, right? Because he doesn't have any backup plan. He doesn't have like diversity of setups. There's not much of rotation he can do here. Yes, he can rotate ads, but again, like it's 50-50. There's 50% ad buying, there's 50% of creatives, and just testing ads and duplicating ads or duplicating assets or changing the budgets once a day, that's not ad buying. That's just clicking the buttons inside the program, right? Anyone can learn this in like what, 1 week, right? um, so to put it simply, it's really about the more working setups you'll have in the account, the more protected you'll be, because in case of whatever bad thing happens, you just have more options. You have a better card. You have better cards in your hand, right, than your opponent, right? So again, continuing here super quickly, placements is another big topic where most of the ad bars will go default. Again, we have a multiple working setups with different placement breakdowns. Again, even in this account that I'm going to show you, you'll see that different placement setups perform differently on different attribution windows, right? Or maybe even different optimization for ad delivery. So once again, as I'm always saying, it's not about testing something as a single thing, like, okay, I'm gonna test placements now. No, if you're gonna test a multi-layer perspective setup, right? If you want to test placements, you need to test a multiple combinations that go around campaign level parameters, attributions, optimizations for ad delivery, and like really test it from a holistic perspective, so you could find those winning setups, right? Bidding, again, maybe this is where some of the ad bars are trying to do something, but again, in most of the cases, it's really the structures of everything are just defaults, right? So let's just let's just take a look at how account looked like before, right? So January filtered by spend, okay, 50K total spend, 25K here in this campaign. So let's focus here. Majority of the spend is here, right? What do we see inside? Okay, broad interest tag, lookalikes 10% initiate checkout, right? Again, campaign spend 25K, majority of spend is here in the broad. So let's take a look inside. What do we have here? And I mean, as always, we don't really have anything that interesting here. It's all of the default options, literally like every single parameter is just default. Okay, exclusion 90 days, yeah, locations, that's account specific, women 18 plus, auto placements, conversions, 7-day click, 1-day view. As I was just saying, just default options, right? Okay, maybe let's take a look back into December. Maybe we'll see something more interesting there. Mid funnel. I'm not gonna go into retargeting that much, especially that it's December, November, right? Micro funnel. Okay, what is micro funnel? Micro one, micro two, lookalike, micro one. By ad set spend, we have this ad set that's has spent the most. All right. Custom audiences. Oh, retargeting, right? Sure. Because it's Q4, I don't want to get too much into retargeting. It's also a very big topic on how you do retargeting. I think, maybe I'll just quickly touch base on the fact that yes, we all know, like pre-iOS, it was, the whole funneling system, or, let's run middle of the funnel ads, let's run bottom of the funnel ads, let's run backend, 1 to 14 days, 14 to 30 days, 30 to 60 days, so on, so on, that worked. Yeah, sure. It was nice and easy. Nowadays, I'm not saying that we're not running any retargeting. Yes, we do. Yes, we still are segmenting some of the audiences, but um, on really high level spending accounts, the what works best is blending all of the funnels into one. So that's why, open assets without any exclusions, even on top of the funnel, work really good, because I mean, as a rule of thumb, your 10 to 20% will go to warm audiences, right? But that's okay. You're cool with that, because what it will do in the beginning is it will just help you to optimize faster and better, right? And automatically it's going to be more scalable, and the ROAS is going to be more stable, because this 10 to 20% that goes to your warm audiences will always, balance out the ROAS that you're getting automatically. This means that you can spend more and scale faster, right? So in nowadays modern and advanced ad buying, retargeting, importance of like building 100 million of different combinations of custom audiences has reduced. Again, as I was saying, the importance is on a holistic level to understand what type of setup will work best. Because, look, at the end of the day, all that ad buying is just playing this dance, dancing around with algorithm, right? Because you always want to find the right balance between, cost of the traffic and quality of the traffic, right? There's always two ways to go. You can either go, through um, cheap cost, cheap traffic, low quality traffic, or expensive traffic, high quality traffic, right? Now, most likely one of the options is going to be really, really scalable for you, right? So you have to figure out that first. And once you have it figured out, all you have to do is, is you're really constantly dancing with the algorithm, right? And you're playing this game of you sending the signals to algorithm and just seeing how it reacts back, right? Um, and along the way, trying to just trick algorithm into giving you a better ranking, better cost, better positioning, better chances at outbidding your competition, right? Because all paid ads, at the end of the day, they're auction and they're bidding, right? So if you cannot outbid them by your CPA or cost of acquisition, that's simply, this is simply how you outbid them, right? This is how you outbid them, because you outtest them, you outsmart them in the ad buying, and you do not give away the control. Um, you just don't go the easy route where everyone else is going, and you're not being a lazy ad buyer, right? That's really that this is, right? Um, right. So going back to the account again from top spending campaigns. So this is gonna be again some retargeting mainly. Um, it's funny, from 70K, like what, 19 plus 11, 20, 30, 44K was mainly spent on. Okay, so here we have some top of the funnel. But it's the same campaign from January, so we already looked here, right? Um, it was all default, very simple. It's just that in December, the interest stack was spending more than broad, right? In January, we saw that broad was spending way more than interest stack. So okay, let's take a look at interest stack. Maybe we'll find something more interesting here. Unfortunately, nope, not. Still defaults. Okay, some most basic interests are included, but from setup perspective or ad buying perspective, not seeing anything really interesting here. Bunch of ads inside. As I was saying, throughout this whole video, just mainly going with default parameters everywhere here. Like again, always you see 7-day click, 1-day view. That's it. So okay, November 147K spend, right? Again, filtered by spend. Let's take a look at these top 5 campaigns, right? Top one, again, retargeting, right? So let's not get too much into that. Same campaign with again interest lookalikes were spending most in November. And then December interests were main one, and January broad. So haven't looked at this lookalike ad set that we had here. Okay, 10%. Check out lookalikes. So that's the only thing. Everything else is default. Okay, microfunnels. This is again gonna be retargeting. This is again retargeting. Um, Dynamic product ads, DPAs. Okay, so catalogs, retargeting, broad retargeting. So they have the top spending one was top of the funnel. Okay, let's take a look. How DPAs were set. Saved audience. Excluding purchasers, a big bunch of interest and language applied. Okay, so I mean, in this case, at least we see something. Obviously, I cannot like make a conclusion whether or not like this is good or no, because it's also account specific with interest targeting or like stacking that many interests into one. Like from my general experience, it usually doesn't make sense to stack that many interests. It's like it's like I always feel that ad bars are just like, oh, whatever, let's just put them all. I don't know what probably ad bar just has no strategy of how to select interest, or just literally has no way of how to decide which interest he needs to go with, right? And then again, he's being a lazy ad bar who doesn't want to test like different stacks of interest, like smaller stacks around 5 interests each, with the right audience sizes to figure out like what really works out of all of this, right? And he's like, okay, let's just put fucking 30 interests into one and let's see what happens, right? So maybe sometimes it works, but again, from my experience, spending 2 mil a month on Facebook, it's never really a long-term high scalability solution. So I'm being skeptical here. Language parameters, they're great in some, especially in Europe. Um, but I mean, the location target, Australia, Canada, their language primarily is English. New Zealand, majority of speakers also speak English there. So again, maybe there was some sort of strategy behind this or some data that backed this. and I hope that there was, and it's just not some random, parameter that was selected, but at least we're seeing something done here. Apart from that, also basic parameters, right? So, okay, we looked quickly into last 3 months. There's nothing really that much to cover. As I said, the overall trend is that really, majority of everything is just default parameters, right? And it's like um, mostly the ad buyers were just testing ads and trying to duplicate ads or try to scale the ads when they get the winning ad, but the other 50% from ad buying side, like testing ad buying setups, was missing. Right now, let's go month by month after we took over, and let's see what, again, let's focus on the top spending campaigns, and let's see what interesting things we can find here, right? So, okay, February. Um, we have a campaign for segmented countries. So again, 7-day click here. So basically, it was just a bunch of again testing different setups on countries level. Now in this account specifically, we kind of ship worldwide, so there's a lot of work to do to find your right countries, and to right define country segment and setup right, because in some cases, so for example in this account the main markets are in Australia, New Zealand, US, Canada, and UK, right? So in some cases you might be like, okay, let's build a campaign for US only, right? But then you'll see that US only is not working good enough. And after you, for example, and then Canada and UK, same, they're not working good enough when they're separated, right? But once you stack those three countries into one, with, let's say, you stack those countries into one, and you find what is the right attribution, what is the right optimization, what is the right campaign type for the stack, it starts working, right? So tell me that this is not ad buying, input here, right? If we for example, we use the same ads, all we do is we do the same thing differently, in a different setup, and we get different results. Isn't that a proof, that this 50% of success that comes from ad buying and finding the right setups is actually as important as creatives? uh, okay. So segment countries, I mean, it's there aren't going to be like many big masterpieces inside, because it's mainly focused on countries primarily. Um, Now, retargeting, again, not gonna go that much into that, but again, pay attention to how attribution settings are different, right? Retargeting 1-day click, top of the funnel campaign 7-day click. So again, tests were made, conclusions were made that retargeting works best in this case on a 1-day click. Um, Reels creatives testing, right? Again, pay attention. So inside campaign, we won't see, that much of a very important data. Although the what I want to point out is that we will see, we have two creative testing campaigns. So we have Reels testing and we have auto testing. Now, what you'll see here is that the attributions windows are different, right? So after multiple tests, we saw that, okay, Reels work better on 7-day click, auto works better on 1-day click, right? And throughout next month, you'll see that we have a multiple setups that we built for 7-day click and 1-day click, right? So automatically we just have more things, more setups that are working, and we have more levers to pull when we want to scale and protect the account. And as you saw, the scale was there, and the scale was pretty nice. Right now, again, inside Reels, we see that the interest tag, a specific audience, was used with a specific attribution window, right? In this campaign, creative testing, broad was used with 1-day click attribution, right? Now, of course, I'm not going to go through all of the sequence of how we figured that out, right? But what matters is that we have figured it out, right? Because you'll see over the upcoming months that the testing campaigns are always in the top level filtered by spend, because We are always also focusing on scaling those initial tests in its original campaigns. And sometimes in some months, we'll see that it can scale pretty high and spend a high percentage of total monthly spend, right? So from February, I really want to point this out, which is a first signal, that account has something interesting here. It's like different audiences are used for different placements, and different attributions are used for different placements. So with what we did here, okay, campaign level remained the same, budget level remained the same. What was cross tested, I mean, multiple things were cross tested, but what we found has the biggest impact is our goal was placements, right? We want to make sure that we retest our videos in reels, right? So what we really needed to figure out is like, okay, what is going to be our winning setup here, right? And what of the reels placements will work in the first place, right? And what is gonna be the best setup with that best placement, mode. So if we go inside, let's. I don't remember what is the. Okay, so it's real. In this case, it's reels isolated, right? Okay, fine. So reels isolated, and then what we needed to figure out is what is going to be the best working setup for auto placements and the best working setup for reels isolated, right? And we found it, right? It's different audiences and different attribution windows, right? So again, just emphasizing one more time that. This just already puts you in a better state, because I mean, what the amateur ad buying would just only do this, and they would only do defaults, and instead of having just default one option, we have two options that are not default and higher level, and at the same time, we just have two options instead of one, right? That's reducing risk. All right, March. Let's see, what do we have here? Again, filtered by spend. As you see, this creative testing campaign, top spending, winner optimization. So that's also going to be more about ads, less than ad buying in this case. Um, Again, reels are still here, retargeting still here, advertorials. So this is maybe next month we'll see some better results in advertorials. We started it on March, right? But March was a slower month, and this right here is a combination of ad buying specific strategies, creative specific strategies, and funnel specific strategies, right? So I'm not gonna go too deep into that, but if we go April, we see that advertorials jumped to the top spending campaign. Now, here, it's where a lot of different setup testing and stacking happens. As you see, it's countries and then countries cross-tested with audiences. And also, what is really important here is that inside of these ad sets, the testing was around building a different targeting with different combinations of ads that are designed specifically for the strategy, right? So, as I mentioned before, the real targeting is what you put inside the ad set, right? Is the ad is your targeting. It's not your interest audience. It's not your lookalike. It's not your broad. Like stop lying to yourselves and just admit that uh, that the creative is the new way of targeting, right? Um, so what you want to make sure that you're doing is, again, instead of this gender age audience, right? You want to create. I call them stories. Create stories inside ad sets using ads, right? And stories are combinations. So this is again just another layer of building those working setups, right? So, for example, you can have a basic, ABO campaign with 7-day click, with conversions, auto placements, no bidding, and broad whatever targeting, right? But with the same setup, you can build like a different combinations or stories of ads under each ad set, and you'll see that it will react differently and it will reach different audiences. So CPMs and CTRs will indicate you that you're reaching different audiences, right? So you want to make sure that you track those, right, secondary metrics. But possible combination or possible stories can be by by messaging, right? Maybe you have a three different headlines that works best, right? Start testing, what happens when you group those ads, by different message under, different ad set, instead of combining all of those ads into one and making a mess out of it, right? By messaging, by product, by ad type, by um, engagement levels. Again, very important method of grouping ads. Big mistake that many ad buyers are doing is that they're pairing ads that have a two big differences in in engagement, right? Let's say 100K likes versus 10K likes, and then and then on top of that they duplicate some sort of new winning creative, next to these X viral ads, and then they're like, oh, why this ad is not scaling? It's because you're not creating the right environment for each of these ads under your ad sets, right? By creative type, right? So this is what I mean by creating stories or combinations of ads under ad sets, right? That's a second type of, like, after ad buying, I call this technical because you're just clicking buttons here, right? Selecting parameters, right? But this is where you don't have any parameters. This is literally ad buyer's own innovation that is happening right here, and he's trying to figure out like what group or what combination or what story of ads will give me the best targeting possible, right? Because you can run broad on all of these five options, right? Five groups of ads, but you'll see, like, CPMs, CTRs, conversion rates will tell you that you're targeting different quality audiences, right? So again, uh, that's just uh, that's just being more advanced about ad buying overall, and not like thinking that, oh, I'm gonna run interest, or I'm gonna look like, or I'm gonna run whatever to make it work, right? So this is where in the advertorials campaigns is where it happened most, right? Um, again, we still have the same campaign: creative testing, when they click, retargeting, Reels optimizations, real creative testing. We have a new campaign here that's in the top three: ABO 7-day click, and it's gonna be conversions, I think. Yep, conversions. What do you have here? Okay, we have top 5 skincare. So this was again a story building of ads and interest targeting, right? So two things at the same time, right? And that was kind of the best thing that worked overall. So more or less, it also overlaps with this building of stories or combinations of ads that happened in this campaign as well. All right, let's take a look at May. What do you have here? Again, same campaign. Now, this is where, I said that I mentioned earlier that I'm going to show you this, right? Account spent 235, creative testing 62. So this is where, April's ad, right? As you can see, April week 3. So not May's ad, actually, ad from April has scaled drastically in the original campaign, right? The campaign spent 62, this one ad spent 25. So again, just emphasizing the importance that the creative testing itself can be also very, very scalable. And as you see, like, each month our testing campaigns are also in the top spending group. Of course, I mean, we're testing hell of a lot of, like, creative. So from one side, it's because of that, but from another side, I just wanted to point this out to show you as proof, that it's worth to be scaling those original ads and original ad sets as well. Now here we have same campaign. So as you see, some things changed from previous month by spend. There was more of, again, country grouping here, and then again going after top 5 ad grouping, with skincare, interest targeting, again, attribution, I forget to look at it, 1 day click, 7 day click, 771, 71, right? So we still have different combinations. Learning phase. What do we have here? Oh, so this is just another ad buying methodology where we where from time to time when we have something that is very like high quality conclusion, right? We build a bigger like starting budget assets with a higher level of investments, and we treat it as an investment asset where we don't necessarily try to get the right ROAS right away. The first goal is to exit learning phases on a higher budgets, and then automatically get back, like earn back on the investment once it exits learning phase, right? But the whole idea is that you, by the time you exit learning phase, you're already spending like big amount of money in something like this, right? So it's just it's not that very much related to setup finding, right? It's more related to budget management and uh, your um, how you scale your campaign, your account. Sorry. Again, Reels still here, advertorial still here. Europe popped up. Inside Europe, we have again some setup testing. Uh, Including excluding languages, different targets. So more or less at this point, not very like very secret superb things, like just the first steps in testing and making Europe work too, right? This month, what do we have this month? Okay, ABO Creative still here. ABO 7-day click, we already looked at it a few months. Advertorials again still here. New thing is DCAs again, testing different options here. So what do we have? So again, creating combinations of different copies and ads by tiers inside. So the target and country setup is like the most profitable, highest draw setup here, right? So that's why it was picked for the DCAs. And then it's more of like figuring out what is the best DCA structure first, before then figuring out what's the best setup for DCA, right? Because without the best DCA structure, you cannot find your best DCA setup. Now again, I didn't speak about this enough. Like each month, you'll see that there are different ad sets with different attribution windows. As always, one thing is gonna work better on 7-day click, another thing is gonna work better on 1-day click. Same with audiences. One audience might work better in one attribution, other in another attribution. So I mean, if we go month by month, you'll always see some diversity here. 1-day click, maybe here we have some more of 7-day click, but we still have this diversity. April again, 1-day click, 777, 711, right? So again, the diversity. March 1171, multiple 777, right? And this is where we just started, but so we started diversity here, but again, just want to remind you that before that it was all default and it wasn't just used at all, and the account was missing out big time on all of these setup findings. So once again, just going back again to results, January 50K spend, May was top spending month so far, 235. Again, I'm not saying that buying alone makes all of this happen. It's definitely creatives too. It's a marriage, and it's 50-50 ad buying and creatives. But if you're not doing lazy ad buying and you're actually doing the work here, and you're actually figuring out all of these combinations on multiple levels, then you just can outbid your competition, outscale your competition, and scale, right? And scale fast, because we have scaled this account in like X4 in monthly revenues in just like few months, right? So from around like 200K to over 800K in monthly revenue, while maintaining the ROAS KPIs, right? So that's something that's I don't know. I don't want to say I don't want to say like great scale or very great results, because we've had better results than this, but it's certainly not bad, right? It's certainly something that we're also proud of. And that's more or less it. I hope that this video was interesting enough and understandable enough, and I hope that whoever is watching this will be motivated to do more than just default, more than just whatever else is whoever whatever else majority of people is doing, right? Just do more. Don't settle for defaults. Don't settle for whatever everyone is doing, right? Because it's never, I mean, innovate yourself. You don't want to be one or three steps behind those who are leading, right? Because if you're not innovating yourself, you'll never be in the front line, right? You'll always be behind, right? So you want to make sure that you innovate yourself. You want to make sure that you start understanding these multiple levels of setups, and just taking advantage of that. Because, like, honestly, you can give me one audience, and whatever audience broad, let's say, and with this broad audience I can find you multiple setups, multiple of different combinations of how I'll make the same ad work, and how I'll spend more, and how I'll scale faster than any other ad buyer who's just going off of default options. And then he's very limited at what he can do technically in the account, right? And he's basically being a lazy ad buyer. Yep, so that's it. Wish you luck, success, and scaling of your accounts, and have a good day.
So I hope you guys got some value out of that. Really want you guys to ask questions, because we actually are answering questions. Also, we take on only about 6 to 9 accounts at a time to scale. And I'd really, if you have an e-commerce store that's generating somewhere between 30,000 per month to 400,000 per month in revenue, and you want to take it to $1 million per month in revenue, you really should consider applying with us, because we're always looking for e-commerce stores that we think has that potential for us to scale. And if so, we're gonna link directly to our first stage of the application. And really looking forward to meeting you guys, and talking through your business and seeing if it's a good match. Thanks.